everyone. And I'm so thrilled that you are with us today. We have 66 club members with us today, and that is fabulous. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And we're starting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you for that. And now to Ann Syret for our inspiration invitation.
Ann, you're on mute.
Unmute herself.
You're on mute, Ann. Ann, you're on mute. Nick, do you have her on mute? Ann, you're on mute. Nick?
Just a minute.
There you go. Okay, start over, Ann.
Okay, now start all over again.
Okay, Ann, please start over. Oh, you muted yourself again.
All right, am I okay now? No.
Yes, Ann, you are. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, okay, there we go. One of our nation's greatest strengths is our democracy, but like freedom, democracy is not free. We enjoy it as a right, but also it carries responsibility. As we move into an important election season, we ask for guidance as we exercise that right and responsibility. We seek to appreciate the importance of being not just voters, but well-informed and thoughtful voters who have taken on the responsibility of educating ourselves about candidates and issues. Guide us in our preparations and confirm in us the commitment to vote. As Rotarians, we ask for the strength to avoid divisiveness and negativity during this election season, and instead focus on the guidance provided by the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And perhaps most important, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Okay?
Thank you, Ann. Thank you very much for those words. Okay. And before we move on to our bell ringers, do we have any guests with us today other than our new member in waiting who will be inducted? Are there any guests that I didn't?
We should have done it as a.
Okay. If Nick is not getting your microphone muted, would you please mute yourselves because we're picking up background noise in your houses.
Raise hand.
Linda?
Hi. Yes.
Please mute yourself. Okay, please mute yourselves if you're not muted by Nick. Thank you very much. Okay, now bell ringers.
Wait a minute, Tammy.
Yes?
I had a couple of guests. I was trying to wave my hand.
Okay. Please introduce your guests, Linda.
Yeah, okay. So today we are watching you from my son's house. And so we have our son, Trevor Benars, at wave here.
Who's finishing up his master's in architecture at Oregon, University of Oregon.
And then we have our daughter, Stephanie Benars, who just graduated from Willamette University with her MBA. And she's holding her nephew, our grandson, Daniel Benars. Everybody wave.
Hi.
Welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we need to go to Allison, please, Nick.
All right. I was just about to type a note to everybody that I received 3 bell ringers via email, and I have one. And if there are any that we do from the floor, We'll take those, and then everybody can just make their donation on the website, and then just email me your announcement. So good to see you, everybody. Thank you, President Tammy. You're always so warm and welcome. Nick. Okay, can you hear me now? Yay. All righty. John Shirley. John Shirley is ringing the bell for all the Rotarians and family members who have volunteered in past years for the Rotary Multi-Sport Riverfest, rain or shine. Your enthusiastic support and positive energy were a huge part of the success of the event and very much appreciated by the participants on the course. As you may have heard, we've had to cancel the event this year due to restrictions on large sporting events. So now you have that weekend off. Sorry to deprive you of the opportunity to get up at dark 30 on a Sunday morning, but we hope you will all still be ambassadors for outdoor fun and active lifestyle and fitness, all of which are still as important as ever. And in honor of our homegrown volunteer-driven sporting event, please shop local for your fitness gear. Downtown needs our support. So President Tammy, please ring the bell. Yeah. Okay. The next one, Linda Bednars and Ryan Collier are ringing the bell for Salem Leadership Foundation's virtual Fancy Friday this Friday, May 29th. Ryan and Linda are both on the board for SLF and don't want you to miss their inspirational program. You can tune in for the 29-minute program meant to inspire hope, action, and support at 7:30 a.m., 12 noon, or 7 p.m. from the comfort of your home or office. There is no cost, and it will be well worth your time. You can sign up for the link at salemlf.org or let Ryan know if you are interested, and he will forward the link to you. Linda may not be forwarding the link as she is having knee surgery tomorrow, but we'll be observing the inspirational video when she can. So President Tammy, please ring the bell for Salem Leadership Foundation. Okay. And Linda and Warren are doing a $100 bell ringer. Recognizing our Rotary Club of Salem is celebrating its 100th birthday this year, the Bednarses have something to celebrate too. In January 1970, Bernie Bednars, Warren's father, formed a corporation named BAR Industries. January 2020 celebrates the 50th anniversary of that company. BAR Industries is self-directed real estate investment corporation, meaning that we can own our own real estate, and manage our own properties. We are not realtors. A partnership was formed sometime in the mid-1960s between Bernie Bednars, Al Norblad, and Ron McDonald, no relation to the Crott family, 3 attorneys in the same law firm that, in addition to their law practice, bought a piece of property at 818 Commercial Street Northeast. This is the same site of the new Salem Police Facility. In 1970, Bernie bought his partners out and formed a corporation named BAR Industries Incorporated. At the age of 11, Warren started working for BAR Industries as proven from the Social Security statement that we all receive each year. That means that Warren has been working for the family business for 50 years. The only job he has ever had except for mowing lawns in his neighborhood as a kid and washing dishes during college. That makes 50 years of continuous work for the family. Certainly, his job description has changed. Warren went full-time on the business in 1981 after graduating from Willamette University, go Bearcats. So he considers that the defining date as to when he took on his career. That is 39 years of dedication to his family. Warren and Linda are working with a business consultant, attorneys, and accountants to try to get this company into the 3rd generation. Statistically, only 13% of family businesses make it that far. President Tammy, please ring a bell and say a prayer for the Bednars family, BAR Industries, and other family businesses that are multi-generational. And I submitted a bell ringer. So I am ringing the bell in honor of all of our family members and Rotarians who are veterans, all those currently serving in any branch of our armed forces, and all those who gave their lives in service of our country and our vision of freedom and democracy. Each year, Memorial Day gives us an opportunity to pause and reflect on their sacrifice and the sacrifices their families have made. May we never take our freedom for granted. President Tammy, please ring the bell. So President Tammy, did you want to take any bell ringers from the floor? Do you want me to?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am? Okay. So everybody, if you could use the chat function, I'm going to finish my note to you and just raise your hand, and then we'll try to get those announcements made.
So far, I don't see any raised hands. Oh, here's one. John McCauley.
Okay.
I'm going to ring the bell for my Uncle Phil, who died in service to his country at the young age of 40 years old. He was a Navy pilot, was killed during nighttime training maneuvers in the South Pacific in April of 1970. So I want to ring the bell in his memory.
I don't see any other raised hands. Are there any other members who would like to ring the bell? If not, I will ring the bell for all of our members who have served or who have family members who served in the armed forces. We understand our freedom is not free. And so it is my honor and privilege to ring the bell on behalf of all of you members who have served and have family members who have served. So thank you very much.
President Tammy?
Yes, ma'am.
I do see a note from Trevor Phillips.
Yes. Okay. Trevor Phillips. Generally, new members in an awaiting status don't ring the bell. Go ahead, Trevor. We'll let you, since we're in this virtual world of weirdness. Go for it.
Thank you so much. This is just in honor of May being Michelle and I's 15th anniversary.
Okay, excellent. Ringing the bell.
And then if ever, John, if you could send me that bell ringer, and Trevor too, just email it to me. So thank you, President Tammy.
Thank you so much, Allison. Appreciate you taking the leadership role on bell ringers this week. All right, so now it is time for our brand new member, Trevor, to join us officially. And Ida, would you please introduce to the club Trevor Phillips?
Unmute. There we go. All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Fellow Rotarians, president, and guest, I am just excited today to introduce Dr. Trevor Phillips, who is with the Salem Health in the ER department. And you've met him several times. And I always say the same thing, and I'll start with this. I've been a member for several years, several years, and I haven't had the opportunity or had anyone inducted or sponsored anyone. And what I like to say is Trevor equals 12 years. You know, he has the enthusiasm, he has the charisma, he has the desire, and he has the want to be a part of Rotary. I want to say that one of the things is over the years that I've known him for about 8 years or so, I have told stories here and there about Rotary, and that made him more and more interested until he asked me more about Rotary. And I think that that's a testament to Rotary itself, not so much hounding people, but just them seeing the benefit of what Rotary can do and being able to talk about it. It is my pleasure to hand over to you, Dr. Trevor Phillips, his information. Okay, so I'm going to run into this as a record of his accomplishment. He has a BS in biology from Linfield College, an MD from Yale University School of Medicine, and of course, he's the physician ER doctor here at our current hospital. And he has served over 25,000 patients. It's quite a bit. One of the things in interviewing him that I guess you learn from interviewing people is why did you become a doctor? What had you go down that path? I learned for the first time that he actually is, his family had horses and they had a lot going on. He was the oldest of 4 and they had a lot going on and he saw a lot of action. And in that action of like things going on with animals, he was the calm one, the one that was able to stay calm and be able to deal with situations. And that takes a lot of skill in itself. Followed by that, he had interest, obviously in science and academics, and kind of drifted towards becoming a doctor, which when he said it was his calling on earth, I thought that was amazing. When we find something that we love to do and then can say it's our calling, and then it's not just a hobby, it's something we can not just support our families with, but we're making a difference. That's just wonderful. And he also just loves interacting with people, talking with people, helping people. I'm helping that person with a life situation, with their personal situation, with their health, but I'm also talking to people. And that's what he loved as well. One of the other things is that with Rotary, he said, I just want to get involved with the community. I want to be more involved. And that ties into some of the other things for his community service, starting from way back. As an Eagle Scout at Grants Pass, Oregon. He was a member of Salem Downtown Homeless Solutions Task Force, board member, Morningside Neighborhood Association, coordinator, Cambridge Neighborhood 4th of July Parade, and longtime resident of Ward 3. And that ties into, you are looking at Dr. Trevor Phillips as now Ward 3 representative on our Salem City Council. And it's not just for his neighborhood, it's for the whole of Salem as a whole. And that's something we, think about, and something I think about, like, oh, it's not just for his own neighborhood. He's going to make a difference in Salem as a whole on other issues as well. And so I give to you Dr. Trevor Phillips as a future member, as now going from just a guest to a member of Salem Downtown Rotary Club.
Thank you for that, Ida. Okay, Trevor. Thank you, Ida, so much for introducing Trevor Phillips into membership for our club, involving people who will continue to build this great club and giving them a place to belong as a top priority. To show our appreciation, the club will award you, Ida, 250 Paul Harris points towards your next fellowship. Trevor, through your membership in Rotary, you can build lifelong friendships and join forces with like-minded people around the world who desire to make a difference in their communities. Our club is comprised of leaders who embrace our motto, service above self. As Rotarians, we have pledged to uphold the highest ethical standards, subscribe to the object of Rotary, and live by the four-way test. Regular attendance at our weekly meetings is an important part of your membership, but Rotary is so much more than just a club. As you become more involved, you'll begin to understand the power of Rotary through expanded friendships and involvement in your choice of the many committees and fellowship activities we offer. As you build friendships and contribute to our impact here and around the world, you will truly understand what it means to be a member of this club and the 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide. We are a vibrant, action-oriented club, and as such, we know you will roll up your sleeves and get involved. Therefore, Trevor, as the newest member of our club, do you pledge to uphold the four-way test, to serve on at least 2 committees, and to contribute to the club in every way that you can?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. And fellow Rotarians, do you pledge to warmly welcome Trevor into our club, to offer him your full support in all that we do?
You do.
You do.
Excellent. Please welcome Trevor as the newest member of the Rotary Club of Salem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. We're glad to have you in our membership, and we look forward to seeing your bright, shiny face each week from this point on. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Ida, for presenting Dr. Trevor Phillips into membership.
Can store them up when the virus is over.
Claudia, do you have an announcement?
I
I do. So we've got our third in the series for our vocational credits, not like we need them, but if you want them and you're available on Friday to watch the Salem City Club presentation of the Changing Skyline of Salem. This one will be Rich Duncan presenting some, I think 5 or 6 of his projects in the downtown area. That goes from noon to 1. If you're interested, please email me at Claudia. The link. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And her contact information is also in DACDB if you need that. And now Chuck Swank, our treasurer. Chuck, do you want to make the dues announcement, or would you like me to, sir? You're on mute. I still can't hear you. Okay, do you want me just to do it? Since I can't hear you. Okay, sorry about that, folks, technical difficulties. For every member, if you have not yet responded to the dues notice, we do need an accurate head count by June 15th. So if you will please respond as soon as possible, advising our treasurer, Chuck Swank, of your intent to renew, or if unfortunately if you have to choose that you won't be a member this next year, please let us know that as well. We do have to forward an accurate stipend to Rotary International for the number of members that we know are on our books as of July 1. So it's important that that number is accurate. So if you could please take care of that piece of business, we would greatly appreciate it. Did I cover everything, Chuck? I got that? Okay. All right. And now, Renee Campbell, you have an announcement.
I do. I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You may know that among so many other things that had to be canceled, the Rotary International Convention in Honolulu was canceled. But in true Rotarian fashion, the group has, oh, I can't share my screen. Never mind. I was going to share the logo. We are going to have a virtual convention, and that is going to be on, let's see here. It's going to be on June 20th through 26th. So we'll have almost a whole week. There's going to be 2 general sessions, one on Saturday, June 20th, and Sunday, June 21st. Don't have the times yet, but then throughout the week, there's going to be 15 breakouts, 3 per day, Monday through Friday. So this is really exciting because people who may never have traveled to an international convention, or maybe never will be able to participate in a Rotary International Convention. It's absolutely free. I will put the link in the website or in the chat box for the Rotary. It's actually riconvention.org. The program, Schedule at a Glance, has already been posted there, and there'll be new information coming as time goes by. Obviously, this needs a lot of logistics, and we will share what we get as soon as it is available. There's a lot of excitement and momentum, but still a lot of things to do. Watch the district newsletter that District Governor Diane puts out, and that will be coming on the 1st. Those links will be in there. The full article is in there, but just wanted you to be aware. Get that on your calendar, and you'll be able to participate in some world-class speakers and sessions virtually. So keep that in mind and take advantage of it. Thank you, President Tammy.
Thank you, past District Governor Renee. We appreciate that update. Okay, and now it is my pleasure and privilege. I do not have any other awareness about any other announcements. So we'll move into our program. Warren Benars, you are our program chair. I am now handing it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. So today we have Bill Burgess joining us to talk about the, he is the Marion County Clerk, and he'll be presenting a brief report on the experience of administering the May 19th primary in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's nice to note that many years ago, these 2 kids that you just introduced here, and Bill's family, we used to go swimming at the YWCA on Friday nights. That's how I ended up getting to know him. So today we have a virtual head table. Vanessa Nordyke was just elected to a 4-year term at the Salem City Council Ward 7 position, which covers an area approximately south of Mission Street and west of Commercial and then Liberty Streets. Vanessa was appointed to fill the seat of Sally Cook, who resigned after her husband passed away. Our next person on the head table is Chuck Bennett, and he may not be on. He had difficulty getting into the Zoom, but he's been mayor for the Salem for the past 4 years and was reelected for just another 2 more years. Prior to that, he was Salem City Council Ward 1, which he held for 8 years. Like my wife, daughter, and he is a Willamette University graduate, so go Bearcats. And the last person we have at the head table is Deb Patterson, who just ran and won the Democratic nomination for Senate District 10. Well, please give a round of applause to our head table. And now for our guest speaker. Bill lives in Salem with his wife of 42 years, Cindy, and one of their adult twin daughters, Jill. Her sister, Joanna, lives in Cody, Wyoming, and a granddaughter, Hazel Jean, with granddaughter Hazel Jean. In 1979, Bill came to Salem to open the first Fine Mart here as a pharmacy manager. Bill's mother was a member of the Mickey Mouse Club at the Elsinore Theater. His mother and parents lived in Salem a short time before moving back to Dallas in Polk County. While growing up in Los Angeles and Orange County, he spent summers with his grandparents in Dallas, playing basketball, learning to swim, shoot, bean, berry, and cherry picking, played dominoes, Scrabble, and double-deck solitaire, chopping wood along with frequent picnics with his elders. Bill served 2 terms on the Salem City Council and was council president for one of those years. He earned a master's in public administration from Lewis and Clark College in Portland. Bill has been elected to Marion County Clerk since 2005. He earned his designation as a certified elections registration administrator through the National Association of Elected Officials and Oxford University in 2013. He earned a certificate in public leadership from Pepperdine School of Public Policy in 2019. Bill is currently the president of the Oregon Association of County Clerks. He serves on the Association of Oregon County Boards of Directors, as well as governance committees and legislative committee. Bill is the Oregon Delegate Director to the International Association of Government Officials, the IGO, representing county clerks, recorders, election officers, and treasurers. Bill serves on the National Election Center Joint Postal Task Force on election mail with the United States Postal Service. So please give a round of applause to our guest speaker today.
Well, thank you. Let's see, I did unmute myself. Is that coming through all right? Good. Okay, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here to talk with Rotary today, especially the formidable downtown Rotary that has done so much for this community. One thing that my children enjoyed from what you've done was that play structure at the Riverfront Park. I was on the city council when we went through whether or not we were going to do that. The administration didn't want to have it happen because they were worried about all the toxics and everything around there. But we got it cleaned up and we got it fixed up. And then Rotary came in and put that facility in that my kids got to play on when they were little. And I still see kids there. It's so heartwarming when you go down to that Riverfront Park and see all the people playing and using that area so well. And so thank you. I know that's only one of the many things you do, but thank you so much for that. And I'm excited to talk about my office today and what we're doing in light of the pandemic environment. I'm going to talk about elections, but first I want to mention some of the things we do in the clerk's office besides that. One of the major things we do is land records. This is where you file your mortgage, your deed, your liens, and all things land record of land record import, because this is part of the financial system of America. This is the way that you're able to capitalize on the ownership of land and on claims to title and all. And so when we went through the pandemic, we were also considered an integral or essential service that had to keep going. In fact, we do some interesting things. I was talking with Tammy earlier yesterday, and she thought that I should mention some of what we do with keeping these records for you. These are permanent records. These aren't just transitory records. We've got records back to 1849 here. But to make sure that we can keep those records, we actually microfilm records. And microfilming it sounds like an old technology, but here to now, the digital records are not permanent. We always think they're permanent, but they really aren't, at least yet, and at least not to the point that we can make sure they're immutable, that they never can be changed, and that they're the exact of what they were supposed to be. So we do that. We also digitize records, of course, and we keep some of our records in disparate places throughout the US. In case something were to happen here, we have them in level 3, 4, or tier 3, 4 server areas in Dallas, Texas, and the East Coast, and pretty soon also in California through our land records management vendor. You know, just to protect you. Some folks have asked me to put these records online. Some counties have. I have not done that because I don't want to open up these records or your deeds or your mortgages or your trust deeds to everybody in the world to look at and maybe try to abuse you. So even though they're public records, you still need to come in to get them. Because of the pandemic environment, we weren't able to do that so well. So when people called for things, instead of asking them to come in, we actually imaged and sent things to them if they needed a copy of their deed or a copy of a satisfaction of a lien. We just went ahead and did that. And we're going to continue to do that at least for a while, even though we're open to the public. We're not completely, well, we're completely open to the public, but the public isn't completely trusting of coming in. And I don't want to make anybody come in that feels unsafe. So we're going to continue to try to find ways to service people without them having to come in. One of the things, another thing there is marriage licenses. Some places like California just stopped doing marriage licenses altogether. We had folks from California coming up here to get marriage licenses. So now we've developed a way that we can issue marriage licenses over the mail, through the mail. It's a lot of back and forth. And before we get everything right, because we send something to you, you look at it, you may need to adjust it, send it back to us, we get another form and all. So back and forth. We also do that through email. But we want to be sure that people that want to get married can get married. And now that we're at level 1 in this county, you can have up to 25 people. For a while, you could only have 10 people. The passport business has stopped. We're the major passport acceptance agent for all of Marion County. We do a lot more than the post office does nowadays. And since the election of President Trump in 2016 or early in 2017, we saw a huge increase in the need for passports, mostly from families that were worried about being separated and wanted to be sure that they could get together and travel out of country. But due to other reasons too, there's just quite an increase in passports. Think of us as your passport place. I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to advertise anything here, but as a government service, you need to know that when we get back to this, we'll have that. The Postal Service presently, not the Postal Service, the State Department, U.S. State Department presently is not issuing or renewing or doing anything with passports unless it's a life or death measure, because their offices are in areas that are more severely affected than us. The major one for us is the Seattle office, and they're just taking life and death passport issues at this time. We hope that that can turn around soon. We are fortunate that the Real ID Act was extended. A lot of people were getting passports because they wanted to fly, and as of October, they weren't going to be able to fly even domestically in the United States. But because of the pandemic, that has been set aside for another year. So there's no rush to get them. I'd still think about getting one, though. The other option is to update your Oregon driver's license to a passport or to a citizenship guaranteed card that will meet the Real ID Act. Not all licenses will do that. Some people will choose not to spend the extra money to do that. That puts another wrinkle too in voter registration, because we've been automatic voter registration through the Postal Service for a number of years now. Well, since January of 2016, our numbers in Marion County swelled from about 150,000 voters to now over 210,000 voters, mostly through this online or this automatic voter registration service. That's where when you go to the DMV and you get a new driver's license, the DMV sends in the past you had to show citizenship. They would share that information with the Secretary of State's office, which in turn would put it through the state database, find out whether or not you were registered. If you were not registered, they would send you a card and say, you're going to be registered in 21 days. Would you like to pick a party, or would you like to say no? Well, about 7% of people said no. A few people picked a party, but most people did not pick a party and did not even respond to the card, and so they automatically came on the voting rolls as non-affiliated. But I'll talk more about that when I get back to elections. This county also, we're the county records manager for the whole county. So we have an archive facility, and we're moving records in and out all the time, and records, when they get older, we incinerate them when the time comes. But for public record requests, for documentation of everything, we help all the other departments with that particular function. We're also the place, we staff the Board of Property Tax Appeals. Because of this pandemic, the last appeal had to be held via a speakerphone. We didn't have the luxury of setting up something like this, like Zoom here. And Tammy, I'm hoping that my voice is matching my lips this time. Tammy mentioned the last time when I was testifying before the Interim House Committee on Rules, that it wasn't working. And so here, instead of using the county's Wi-Fi, which is not as strong with so many people on it, I'm using my phone's Wi-Fi or hotspot. But Tammy, let me know if things get bad and I need to switch back, okay? As far as elections going in this COVID environment, our big goal was to make sure that we kept the public and our staff safe while ensuring election integrity. And turnout was good during this election. Oregon, it was 46.4%, and can still be a little bit more because we are still counting and processing ballots. And I'll talk more about that later. If you might have questions, I could answer those. We're among the highest turnout states in this particular primary election. I looked at the figures for 31 states that have recorded Oregon primaries, and yes, some states are having Oregon primaries next week, next month, and the following month. they look at something a little bit different. And Tammy, I'm sorry, I know you didn't want me to get into figures too much, but there's something called the voter eligibility percentage, which is a little bit different than the people that turned out. Now in Oregon, before we started automatic voter registration, we were at about 65% of the people that were eligible to vote were registered. And in Marion County, it was a little lower than that. Now, as a state, we're at 91% of those people that are eligible to vote are actually registered. So we think we've got just about all the people that want to be registered, though we're not sure. And so we'll continually keep trying, and we'll also have people moving in and people coming of age. And we want to be sure that they all get registered so that they can be part of the community. But when we look at voter turnout, it's really interesting, at least to me. In this election, the 18 to 24-year-olds, 15% turned out. The 25 to 39, we had 20%. The 40 to 54-year-old, we had 33%. And the 55 and over, we had 59% turnout. Now, when we get to a presidential election, generally we see those numbers actually double in the lower age groups. And when we get to that 55 and older, it's over 90% turnout by them. And we also notice that it depends on whether somebody's registered by a party. Remember, I said that all these automatically registered people, so many of them become nonpartisan. Well, in this particular election, we had 56.5% of the Democrats voted and 57.5% of the Republicans voted. Of our non-affiliated, only 13% voted. Now we have more non-affiliated voters than we have of either of the other parties. Both the R's and D's have about 60,000 voters. The non-affiliateds have about 77,000 voters. And there were things for them to vote this election, certainly city council races, and in some places, not in Salem here, but just right outside of Salem, there was a Marion County Fire 1 had a funding measure, and you get to Staten. There were two funding measures in Staten, one for the city and one for the Rural Protection Fire District out of Staten. So there are sometimes the non-affiliated just don't know that they could be voting. Of course, you know, for campaigners, they had a harder time going door to door for all the campaigns. Whether it would be a city bond measure or whatever, it was much harder to get the word out this way because you couldn't even have the public meetings and all. Of the minor parties, though, we've got a lot of minor parties in Oregon, about 8 of them, and they turned out at twice the amount of the non-affiliates at 26%. So that put us as our county at about 39.3%, little lower than Oregon's 46.4%. There were more contested races in some parts of Oregon. And the metro area, there was a question of funding for the homeless. And so that probably brought out a lot more people. Had we had a bond measure here in Salem, maybe that would have brought out more voters too. This was the first statewide election with paid postage. Pretty cool. The state of Oregon, state of Washington did this a couple of years ago. The first little test, they saw a larger turnout when it was just small municipalities running. But when it came to the statewide thing, they didn't see such a turnout. They just saw more by mail and less by box. The interesting thing about this, though, is that they are different than us. We can't really compare them straight across because they go by postmark. So they don't even worry. They close their elections office at 9 p.m. on election night because they know they're going to get all these other ballots coming in the next few days that they're going to be able to count too. Oregon's a little bit different. we have to have the ballot in hand in our office or in a ballot drop box somewhere in Oregon by 8 p.m. on election night. And we end up getting hundreds of ballots. Just our office, Marion County, ends up getting hundreds of ballots that are postmarked. Well, sometimes they're postmarked before the election, but we've received them after the election, and we're not able to count those, at least presently. I'm hoping that we can maybe go by postmarks in the future, like both California and Washington do, and as a judge has ordered Montana to do just recently. But the rest of the county clerk, many of the county clerks don't like that idea because in Eastern Oregon, sometimes the ballots don't even get postmarked because the Postal Service there feels instead of sending it all the way to Portland and back, which could take 9 days for them, they just go ahead and deliver it to where it needs to go, and they don't always get it postmarked. So there's some different issues on getting that taken care of, but I certainly would like to see us go that way. And because I believe of the postmarks, of the paid postage, we received 53% of our ballots in hand this election, whereas most previous elections since 2016, we were like 33 to 40% by mail. And you can ask, was the increased percentage mail due to the paid postage or more due to the COVID-19 pandemic and people just wanting to mail, to handle their ballot in what they may consider a safer or more convenient way? Let's see. Okay, we already talked about that. I'm sorry. There were several COVID-related challenges for election administrators, not only us here, but of course throughout the state. Luckily, though, not nearly like the places that have polls. With vote by mail, we make it so much easier, safer, convenient, accurate, and for people to vote with integrity, and especially with people with disabilities or people that are older, more frail, that can't stand in line at a polling place, or people that are very busy, like our physician Trevor there in the emergency room, probably might not be able to, depending on what's going on where he's at work, he may not be able to get to the polling place. So this gives people a vote. We're so used to it here, but you hear so much about it in the news that it's so fraught with error. And there are some situations that come up that we need to deal with. And if you want, I can talk about those later too. But anyhow, we weren't budgeted for expenses related to this pandemic. We did not anticipate this last June when this year's budget was approved. I'm sure Chuck Bennett can, and the other city councilors here can understand the things, the exigencies that come up that weren't in the budget process. We needed to finalize our ballot insert instructions and voter pamphlets by the first week of April. At that time, we didn't know what was going to be open and what wasn't going to be open. So we put everything in there, all our ballot drop sites, but we also put in a note saying that please check, these are provisional. We're not sure what's really going to be open by the time it's time to vote. And I even wrote a page, it's page 15 in the voters pamphlet, a whole page about the pandemic and just exactly how we needed to respond to that. Okay, at that time when we're writing this, there were a lot of things we just plain don't know. But like 1 week before the election, what would be the situation concerning ballot drop sites when it gets too late to mail? In Oregon or in the Marion County area, I recommend people vote or mail at least a week ahead of time, because we track the ballots that come back to us, and we find that ballots sometimes postmarked 3 or 5 days back, sometimes as many as 7 days or more. Very rarely, but some of those 7 days or more don't get to us. So that's why we say vote by mail by at least 7 days. Even though I can get a lot of them in 3 days, I just don't want you to take the chance. And so that's why we recommend you find the ballot drop sites. And we had a lot of them in Marion County, but not all of them were open. And that caused some problems with some of our voters that were upset with us because we had closed ballot drop sites, mostly city halls. We hadn't closed them, actually. The city halls closed them because they didn't want people in. A fire department closed one, a bank closed one. But luckily, we did have grocery stores like Roth's, where everybody that works there is wearing a mask, that were open to the public. And so that was a godsend to us that we could have access in those places. We actually opened one in Staten just a few days before the election because they had no sites there, and not everybody wanted to drive over the county line to Scio or into Salem or up to Mill City, where we also had sites. But I did get a lot of flack about that, and we're going to look at seeing how we might make some more 24/7 sites in other parts of the county, like we have in Silverton, like we have in Woodburn, at the health department in Salem, and Kaiser City Hall, because those are so much easier for people with a 24/7 lifestyle, and so much easier for people that they didn't have to interact with everybody. We always thought it was a great public service to have them inside city halls and all, but when city halls felt it was not safe, we couldn't do it, and so people had to drive further. There's also a problem too where people got their information. Like for instance, Right to Life has a really nice website that they post in different counties that sometimes comes up before ours that list the drop sites with this very attractive website. The problem is many people go to that and it's not updated. And even the insert that they had in the ballot that we sent them couldn't be updated because again, it had to be printed in early April. But going to my website, you could find what was open and what was closed. And maybe we have to find better ways to communicate that in the future, because we're not sure what November portends. We're thinking that we're looking at probably the same type of situation as we have now, at least some social distancing, and those city halls may be opening soon here. When we get into this flu season and all, it may be a different thing, different to the point that Trevor will be too busy in the hospital to attend to city council meetings. Well, I don't know, Trevor, I'm sure you'll find a way to make that happen because you're very conscientious and you're going to get things done. Okay. Many of our election board workers were unwilling to work during the pandemic. Most are over 70 years old. Some live with immunocompromised family members at home, and some were pressured by family to sit this election out. And so we recruited and we hired more workers. And to keep workers safe, we practiced physical distancing as much as possible while still upholding the integrity of the election. Sometimes election board workers need to work side by side. The Oregon Health Authority established election worker standards, allowing us this as long as each team of two kept a 6-foot distance from another. We provided gloves, masks, face shields, and hand sanitizer. We disinfected surfaces often, several times throughout the day, and we restricted the congregation and movement when people weren't working, because they couldn't use the regular break room and their regular meeting room, because we wanted to make sure that we kept the social distancing. It also meant instead of having them sit around for 2 hours as ballots were being processed to when we could bring more to them, we just sent them home and had them come back another day. They actually liked that because traditionally people are working till 2 in the morning, and they didn't have to do that this election. Many counties had about half the number of election workers as they normally do. And so this did increase our processing times, but also with social distancing, we couldn't use more than half anyhow. So it sort of worked all right. It was just getting enough people to do that. Yesterday, Marion, we brought in duplication teams and verification teams working on about 400 ballots that needed to be duplicated to go through the ballot counting system. These were ballots that were originally rejected as unreadable at first scan, or that had been torn or had something sticky on them, or our large print ballots, or our tactile ballots. We have some tactile ballots for blind people where they listen to a tape and they feel their way through the ballot. We actually use fabric glue for that. Sort of one of the early things that Marion County came with to try to extend the reach of people to vote privately and independently. Some people now use other technology to do that, but at least we have that. Something else called HTML ballots, like if you're out of state and out of county and it's election day and you forgot to get a ballot, you can go into any county and you can go online there and you can print out, you can vote online, mark the HTML ballot, then print it, and then they put it in an envelope there, and then they would send us to us, and we would get it after the election, but it would still count. It couldn't go through our machines though, so they'd have to go this duplication process too. This duplication process, we've got two people. One reads the original ballot, and I had 418 ballot styles, and so one has to find the right ballot style for the other ballot. We marry these ballots together. We with a red stamp on each one and everybody's signature in numbers, because if I have a recount, we're going to count. You have to go back to the original, not the one that went through the counting machine. So we got to keep a close track of these. So two people do the duplication process, one reads and one marks, but then that has to go to a verification team to two more people that will do that to make sure that's right. And then only then can that duplicated ballot make its way to the counting room. During this election too, Marion County, with over about 210,000 voters, issued 4,200 replacement or reissued ballots, most by mail, but some over the counter. We turned the Senate hearing room into sort of like a polling place for Monday and Tuesday before the election. So we issued ballots to people there, or if they needed to come upstairs, we would do that too, but we were trying to keep them out of the office. So we issued these over the counter with hand sanitizer, social distancing, masks, plexiglass barriers, surface sanitizing after each voter, and frequent hand washing. Other counties did some other things. Wasco County offered curbside ballot replacement service. Multnomah and others offered will call ballot service, sort of like when you go to the movies. Marion County sent out hundreds of letters to voters who forgot to sign their ballot envelope or whose signature did not match. They have until June 2nd to respond in order for us to collect their ballots. Some people are shocked to learn that Oregon, we examine every signature to assure voter identity. We cannot open the ballot envelope for processing until we have a signature match. Extrapolating from Marion County statewide, we may have 15,000 outstanding ballots awaiting voter response. So if you got one of those letters from us, please respond. Another reason too is if you don't respond, we have to inactivate you and can't send you a ballot the next election. And that sort of hurts us if we can't do that. So please respond to that letter and get your signature taken care of. There were charges that voters were not issued the ballot of their choice. This is a perennial primary election phenomenon that seems intensified this year via social media. Oregon is a closed primary state. You need to be registered in the party to vote in the primary for the leaders of that party to go forward into the general election. And you have to update that at least 21 days before the election. You can't update that on election day like you could your address. So we received complaints from voters that they weren't getting what they wanted. One glaring disinformation post was thankfully branded almost false by Facebook, or largely false by Facebook due to the intervention of the Oregon Secretary of State's election division. Yet another is charged that the DMV or others were changing voters' registration to nonpartisan. As clerks looked at these complaints, they were largely discovered to be unfounded. Every once in a while, we found that we had made a mistake, not our office, luckily, but a couple of offices, because contact with folks throughout the state, found that they may have made a clerical error, and so they were able to fix that. And I'm not saying that we don't make clerical errors, because we do, but we own up to them and we fix them as soon as they're brought to our attention. Some voters claiming to change had been registered a party not of their present liking for many years, but never changed to their now preferred party. Many had never voted in a primary election, but voted in general elections where party registration doesn't matter. So some said that they voted for a specific party for years and could not understand why they received a primary ballot from another party. Of course, we would not have known how they voted, and we wouldn't have changed it based on that anyhow. They need to document it before we do that. So there's some misunderstandings that happen, and many of these folks are surprised when we show them the image of their last voter registration card, and we show them their primary election voting history. So though there are many claims out there, and I can talk about that later if you want more information on that too.
Bill?
Yes?
Bill, we are just about out of time. Would you like to take a couple of questions before we get to our adjournment time? Or is there one more point that you wanted to make before we
just really fast. I'm sorry I went so long. Cybersecurity is a big issue, and we're working on that in many ways. And we're just fortunate that all the suppliers, vendors, our team, other teams that do the printing, the inserting and all that, were healthy for this election. We're hoping that they are certainly healthy for next election. I'd also mention you can sign up on my website for Track Your Ballot. You'll get a text every step of the way as to know that your ballot has been counted. And yes, I'm ready for questions.
Okay, we have one in the queue. Judge Mary James, I see that your hand is raised. It is to you, ma'am.
Hi, Bill, thank you so very much for the work that you do for the county. And especially the fact that you let people get married, because that's one of my favorite things to do as a judge. My question is, what do you think the chances are of having open primaries where people who are unaffiliated are able to vote in parties' primaries? I know that I spoke with a couple of young people who said they didn't understand why they got a ballot that didn't have very much on it, mostly just judges. And I said, well, are you unaffiliated? And they said, yes. And I said, that's why. So I just wanted to know if there was any movement towards that. Thank you.
There certainly has been discussion, Judge James. And it was on the ballot a few years ago. It was soundly defeated by like 80% no, 20% yes. But it may change, because both Washington and California have what they call a top two election. It's not really exactly a primary, but they put everybody can vote for all the R and all the D candidates. The parties in Oregon have determined, as if many, I think at least 17 other states have what they call closed or almost closed primaries. Sometimes they'll let non-affiliateds vote on some of the measures, but for the most part, they don't. And so that's where we are today. And it's an educational effort every time. When you get your voter notification card, we explain that on the back. You look in the voter's pamphlet, we've got it there. The state's got it in theirs, but not everybody reads.
Right. Okay, thank you for that question. And thank you, Bill. We are out of time. I don't see any other hands raised in the participant box. So let's be sure and thank our speaker for being with us today. Bill, you've done an excellent job giving us those details, and I hear in your voice how challenging it is to manage the different perspectives around elections and campaigns. And so thank you for the work that you and your team perform each and every day to help keep the system on the straight and narrow and help folks understand their rights to place and process their votes. So thank you for that hard work. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity, and please come down and see us maybe next election or whenever we're open to the public. We'd love to give you a tour when we've got ballots in-house.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We appreciate that invitation. Thank you, Dr. Trevor Phillips, for joining us today and becoming a new member. We look forward to you being active in our club. To the Bednarz family, thank you for your guests today. And Warren, thank you for being our program chair. Next week, you don't want to miss, because next week we'll be meeting. Of course, we will remain virtual in our meeting status at this time. But next week, our program chair will be Larry Gray, our very own, and also our very own Ron Kellerman is going to regale us with his recount of his Cuba trip. So I'm sure that will be very inspirational and informative, so you won't want to miss that. So blessings to you all. Have a fabulous week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing your bright faces next week, same time, same channel, okay? We are adjourned.